Hi everyone, my name is Dina, and today I'm going to be talking about my socio-ME-ology project. Sorry, where I explore my identity through four different sociology concepts, which are culture, family, ethnicity, and identity. So let's first start with culture. So, as you can see on the left side, I have focused on my culture using specific examples like food, language, traditions, and even expectations. So I included food because in my culture, meals are not just about eating them or just making them. They are to bring people together, and it reflects on me because I remember being a kid or even right now of if we want to see my cousin or my family member or even my friends, instead of saying, hey, like, let's go for a walk or can you come over, we invite each other to our homes and make these beautiful and delicious dishes. And I would say these dishes are very extraordinary because we do use a lot of uh, ingredients that aren't supposed to go together. However, at the end, it makes such a tasty food that you can't even imagine. So, next up, I want to talk about the language, how in my culture is. So, language is something bigger than what you may think. First, Farsi was the first one of the first languages in the history of languages. It's one of the oldest languages and most difficult to learn and understand. Um, but overall, language makes our Farsi language makes me feel more connected to my whole culture because I live in Canada, but we moved from Iran. So I don't experience the same language as people in Iran do. So I'm very limited for my language, but every day I try to learn something new because it's such a beautiful language to even speak or hear with. So next up I want to talk about is my traditions. So like no rules that you can even see a picture of me and my family up there, which I'll get to in a little bit. And traditions like no rules are shown as like cultural values to my family and renewal. Like no rules is our basic new year and leaving everything that we did in the past, um, and trying to have new goals and new understandings. And um, these small aspects really include these expectations from my culture, which also show that culture is not just a positive experience, but also influences how I am expected to behave. So next I want to talk about is the educations from my culture, expectations, sorry. So we are expected to be very respectful to our elders because they are the people who give us the tradition. We value education really hard. So if you think about it, or if you ask a Persian, we value being a doctor because they have the most experience from what we think. And if you look at a Persian's family, there's at least one person in that whole family that's a doctor. So that's where the education comes from. Or the next thing is that we always stay close to family. I'll get to that in a little bit. And the ethnicity connects to generous history and it helps each other. So now I want to talk about the right side of my poster. So let's get into it. So I used my own family photos to represent my family and how close I am together with them. The first picture you can see is me and my brother and my mom at one of my first Nowruzes that we celebrated together. So this is important because it makes me feel like this whole project makes me feel really good because it has original work that I've lived and experiences. Each picture you see, it represents different types of my family interactions. Like you can see my large gatherings and celebrations and everyday moments as you go down. I arrange these photos in rows to show that my family is constant and also present across all my different situations in life. We can celebrate if we're in person or if we're long distance. We still stay connected, as you can see on my fifth picture. You can see my brother. You can't really see, but my brother is on the phone on FaceTime with us. These images basically show that um, my family is not just a group of people, but they really are active supportive system that shape my value and my behavior and my identity, which I'll get to. So next I want to talk about my ethnicity. So my ethnicity as a Persian connects me to a long history of cultural background. But like this is not an acknowledged that it's basically misunderstood in the media. As you can see even right now, that there's a world war going on at my country and everything's basically on fire. This also adds a really important perspective to my project because it shows basically the difference between how my identity is represented, but versus how people actually see it as. So next up, I want to talk about my identity. So my identity is not just a personal, it's more like socially throughout my culture, my family, and ethnicity. I find things to relate with other people, and I also find different things to relate with other Persians, which is very common. I am one of the most proud Persians that you can find, but to be honest, every Persian is proud of their ethnicity. So now I also want to talk about a song that I included. So it's called Baraye, which translates to for or for whoever. And it's by Shervin Hajirpour. Um, I included it as just a picture, and I'm gonna tell you what basically culturally symbolizes. So the song represents the voice of the people who are fighting for freedom and their expression, which adds a little political but also an emotional layer to my project. The song has a lot of pride, which is why I included it on my project. But basically, what it talks about is talking about the freedom that we want for the past 48 years for our country and our people. And what you see is not how the people of Iran are. And it's really upsetting to experience as being someone who lived there once. So, if you want to go give it a listen, there's also a translated version on YouTube, which I have added in my project, and you can see, and there's a link for that. And what I learned is this project has made me realize identity is not just something I choose, but it's something bigger because it's shaped by larger social forces. But using my own life has helped me understand sociological concepts in more like a real and meaningful way. I also understood that culture is not something that separates people from everyday life. It's more like a constantly experienced through my life and my interactions. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.